Ravi wiped the grease from his hands, squinting at the dim lights of this docking bay. It was just another long, endless shift fixing engines that never seemed to stop breaking. He had no desire for adventure, no dreams of heroism. He only wanted the machines to work, the bills to get paid, and maybe a quiet dinner before falling asleep. He had always thought life was predictable, until the announcement crackled over the intercom. All personnel report to the Royal Command deck immediately. Ravi froze. He didn't even know the Queen ever came to the docking bay. Mechanics didn't usually mingle with royalty, and the thought of leaving his tools and stepping into the unfamiliar made him nervous. But something, curiosity, fear, or the strange thrill of the unknown, pushed him forward. Step by step, he walked toward the command deck, each footfall echoing against the metallic floor. When he entered, the air changed. It wasn't just cleaner or colder, it was alive. There she was, the alien queen, taller than any being Ravi had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with shifting colors like liquid sunlight flowing beneath her surface. Her eyes were enormous, dark, and piercing, yet they carried an unexpected softness. Every guard in the room looked tense, moving with precision and purpose, but she didn't glance at them. She was staring at him. Ravi's stomach tightened. His mouth went dry. He stumbled forward, tripping slightly over his own boots, and tried to steady himself. "Why you want me?" he stammered, his voice barely more than a whisper. The Queen raised a slender hand, the gesture calm but commanding. "You," she said simply, "guard me." Ravi blinked. The room seemed to spin. Guards with years of combat training, deadly skill, and experience in the deadliest corners of the galaxy were standing around, yet she had chosen him, a lowly mechanic with grease under his fingernails and nothing more than the ability to fix broken machines. I'm just a mechanic," he muttered, disbelief and fear blending in his chest. "I can't fight. I don't know how to." "You see things others cannot," the Queen interrupted, her voice gentle yet firm. "You notice details, you understand systems, and you care when it matters. That is why you are needed." Ravi wanted to argue, to explain that a mechanic's hands weren't meant for weapons, but the weight in her gaze made him pause. There was something in her eyes, something deeper than command or expectation. A trust that no one else in the room had. It was terrifying, but also strangely comforting. For the first time, someone believed in him more than he believed in himself. The first few days were surreal. Guards trained with him as though he were just another recruit, but every movement felt alien. Their bodies were precise and fluid, while he stumbled awkwardly, struggling to keep pace. The Queen often observed him silently, her glowing presence a constant reassurance and a quiet challenge. Sometimes she would hover near him during drills, offering subtle advice, not criticism. "Focus on the path, not the weapon," she would murmur, her voice echoing in his mind long after the moment passed. Ravi began to notice things about her that no one else seemed to see. The way her shoulders tensed when she was worried, the soft glow of her skin when she was calm, the way her voice could make the room feel impossibly vast or heartbreakingly intimate. He realized she wasn't just a ruler. She was someone who carried a universe of responsibility on her shoulders, and somehow she had chosen him to stand beside her. By the end of the first week, Ravi's fear had turned into a strange mix of awe and determination. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was part of something bigger, something dangerous and terrifyingly beautiful. And deep down, he wondered if he was ready to rise to a challenge he never asked for, but that the Queen, somehow, believed he could face. Ravi didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain. His life would never be the same again. Ravi stepped onto the palace grounds for the first time with a mixture of awe and unease. The air itself seemed alive, shimmering with faint colors he couldn't name. Floating platforms carried guards silently above lush alien gardens, and plants glowed softly, their movements almost like breathing. The palace felt alive, and he felt small, completely out of place. He was still a mechanic, used to engines and metal, not glowing walkways and royalty. The Queen walked beside him, her steps graceful and confident. She never rushed, but her presence was commanding enough that everyone around gave her space. Ravi stumbled once on a platform that shifted unexpectedly, and she turned to him, her glowing eyes narrowing, not in anger but in concern. "Balance comes from trust in your own body," she said softly. Her voice was melodic yet strange, vibrating in ways he couldn't explain. For a moment, he felt the weight of his inadequacy, his mind screaming that he did not belong here. Training began immediately. The elite guards moved like living shadows, their weapons humming with energy and precision. Ravi tried to follow their drills, but every motion felt clumsy, every step awkward. He fell more times than he could count. Some of the guards sneered quietly, murmuring about the human rookie who didn't belong. He wanted to hide, to crawl back to the comfort of engines and grease. But the Queen's presence kept him rooted. She never criticized him harshly. Sometimes she would place a hand on his shoulder, her skin warm and glowing, and say, "Observe first, act second." Those words haunted him during every drill, reminding him that perhaps she saw potential where he saw only failure. One evening, exhausted and frustrated, Ravi sat on a balcony overlooking the alien city. Lights flickered below and the hum of energy engines filled the air. The Queen joined him quietly, leaning on the railing beside him. For a long time they just watched the city, her glow reflecting softly on his tired face. Finally, she spoke. "Do you believe you are unworthy?" Her voice was gentle, but it cut straight through him. "I'm just a mechanic," Ravi admitted, his shoulders sagging. "I fix machines, I don't know how to fight, I don't belong here." The Queen smiled faintly, a light that seemed to come from her very core. "You see the truth others miss," she said. "A broken system can be fixed. A failing guard can be strengthened. You care when it matters. That is why I chose you." Her words were simple, yet they made his chest tight. For the first time in his life, someone saw value in him beyond his skills, beyond his failures. Someone believed he could rise above what he thought was his limit. Over the next few days, Ravi noticed small things that no other guard seemed to pay attention to. The way the palace energy flows shifted when the weather outside changed. The subtle gestures of those who tried to hide fear. The faint patterns in alien technology that even some senior engineers missed. He realized that maybe his background as a mechanic was not a weakness here, but a hidden strength. He could understand systems in ways others could not, notice dangers before they became threats. The Queen began assigning him small responsibilities beyond mere protection. At first, it was observing patrols, then coordinating energy shields, and eventually checking security grids. Each task tested his skills, patience, and courage. Every success built a quiet confidence inside him, the kind he had never felt before. He began to see that this strange, glowing alien world was not just a place of danger, it was a place of possibility. By the end of the week, Ravi's hands were no longer trembling as he adjusted his equipment. He still stumbled, still felt out of place, but something had changed. The Queen had not just placed him here as a guard. She had put him where he could grow, where he could matter in ways he had never imagined. And for the first time, Ravi thought maybe he could rise to the challenge, and maybe somehow protect her if the world came crashing down. Ravi had grown used to the palace's strange rhythms, the glow of alien lights, and the soft hum of energy flowing through the halls. Yet nothing could have prepared him for the chaos that erupted one evening. The alarm sounded before anyone could react. Shrieks and flashes of light tore through the palace corridors. Raiders, vicious and fast, had breached the outer defenses, and the guards moved with deadly precision to intercept them. Ravi froze at first, his heart pounding. He was still a mechanic, still unsure of his body and his abilities in a fight. The Queen was at the center of the command chamber, calm amid the storm, her presence like a beacon in the chaos. Guards formed protective lines, energy weapons glowing, shields flickering. Ravi could feel the panic rising in the room, a tension so thick it pressed against his chest. A sudden explosion rocked the platform behind him. Metal twisted and sparks flew everywhere. He stumbled, tripping over a fallen console, and saw a blast heading straight toward the Queen. Without thinking, something inside him, instinct, fear, or pure desperation, took over. He grabbed an emergency energy shield from the wall and threw himself between her and the deadly strike. The blast slammed into the shield with a deafening crack, sending Ravi flying back several feet. Pain shot through his arms, but the queen was safe. The other guards looked at him in disbelief. They had trained for years, faced threats countless times, and yet here was a rookie mechanic standing between the queen and death, and he had succeeded. The queen's gaze found his across the chaos, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them. Approval? Relief? Perhaps both. Ravi didn't know, but his chest swelled with a mixture of pride and fear. As the battle raged around them, Ravi realized that his usual skills, understanding machines, noticing small details, had become vital in ways he had never imagined. He saw weak points in the raiders' approach, exploited gaps in their formation, and improvised with energy barriers and makeshift defenses. Guards who had doubted him began to follow his lead in pockets of the fight. By the time the last raider was pushed back and the palace was quiet again, Ravi was exhausted, bruised, and shaking, but alive. And so was the queen. Later in the quiet of the palace gardens, Ravi sat on a glowing bench, still catching his breath. The queen approached him, her glow softer now, less commanding, more intimate. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she simply extended her hand. "You acted when it mattered," she said quietly. "You saw the danger and did not hesitate. That is why you are here. That is why I chose you." Ravi stared at her hand, then at her eyes, which seemed to pierce into him, seeing every doubt, every fear he had ever carried. I just didn't want anything to happen to you," he admitted. The words felt small, inadequate, but genuine. The queen's smile was fleeting, yet it warmed him more than any sun ever could. From that moment, something changed. Ravi no longer felt like a misplaced mechanic trying to survive in a world that was too big, too alien. He felt like a guardian, someone who had proven that even the most ordinary person could rise to extraordinary challenges. And more importantly, he realized that the queen was not just a ruler to be protected. She was someone he cared for deeply, someone whose safety had become his responsibility, no matter the cost. The first test had been more than a battle, it was a revelation. Ravi discovered courage he didn't know he had, strength in places he never thought to look, and a bond with the queen that went beyond duty. He was no longer just a human in an alien world. He was part of her life, and she had chosen him to stand beside her when the galaxy turned dark. And as he watched her silhouette glow against the alien night sky, Ravi made a silent promise. No matter what came next, he would never falter. Days passed after the raid, and the palace settled into an uneasy calm. Ravi's muscles ached, and his hands still bore the faint scars from handling the energy shield, but his mind was restless. Something had shifted. He was no longer just a mechanic or a rookie guard. He had tasted what it meant to protect someone, to make a difference in a way he had never imagined. Yet he still felt the weight of inadequacy, the sense that he didn't fully belong in this alien world. The queen seemed aware of his thoughts without him speaking them. She began to involve him in ways that felt intimate, almost personal, rather than strictly professional. While the other guards trained in squads, she would bring him to her private chambers, asking for his opinion on security systems, showing him alien devices he had never seen before. Her trust unsettled him at first. He felt unworthy of her attention. But slowly, he began to understand that her choice was not about skill alone. It was about seeing truth where others saw only rank, about valuing heart as much as strength. One evening, they wandered through the palace gardens together. The soft glow of alien flora bathed them in light, and the distant hum of the city created a strange sense of peace. The queen asked him about Earth, about the machines he worked on, and about moments he had thought too ordinary to mention. Ravi laughed nervously, telling her stories of sparks, engines, and mistakes that ended in flames or smoke. She listened intently, her glowing eyes reflecting curiosity and amusement. For a moment, Ravi forgot the alien world, the battle, the responsibility. He just shared a part of himself with someone who genuinely cared. It was in these moments that Ravi realized how human she seemed. Despite her height, her glowing skin, her alien grace, She had worries, joys, and fears that mirrored his own. He noticed how she paused when she was anxious, how her fingers trembled slightly when she held delicate objects, and how she sought comfort in small routines amid the chaos of ruling an empire. The palace, with all its grandeur and strangeness, faded into the background, leaving only them, two beings from different worlds connecting in ways words could barely describe. As the days grew, the queen began assigning him responsibilities that tested more than his physical ability. They tested his judgment, his insight, his loyalty. He monitored energy flows through the palace, predicted weak points in defense grids, and even advised on tactical placements for the guards. Each success brought quiet satisfaction, but also a growing awareness of his growing bond with her. He was not just guarding a ruler. He was becoming someone she could rely on completely, someone she trusted with her life. One night after a long day of drills, Ravi found himself standing outside her chamber. She appeared at the doorway, her glow subdued, almost vulnerable. "You've changed," she said softly, her voice carrying warmth and recognition. "You see more than you realize. You understand more than you admit. That is why I need you." His chest tightened at her words. He wanted to protest, to tell her he was still a simple mechanic, unworthy of her trust. But the truth was undeniable. He felt an unspoken connection, a responsibility that was no longer just about duty. Ravi began to see the palace differently. He noticed subtle patterns in the guards' routines, hidden pathways in the palace corridors, and weaknesses in the outer walls that even seasoned soldiers overlooked. His mind, trained for mechanics, had learned to interpret people and systems alike. He understood that his human perspective gave him an advantage that no alien could replicate: a simple curiosity, a care for detail, and a refusal to accept impossibility. By the end of the week, Ravi no longer felt like an outsider. He felt like a part of something bigger, a vital thread in the delicate weave of the Queen's life and safety. And for the first time, he admitted it to himself. He cared for her, not as a duty, not as a command, but as someone who had come to matter in ways he had never imagined. He was no longer just her guard. He was her confidant, her ally, and maybe, in a quiet corner of his heart, something even more. Ravi had grown comfortable in the palace, almost forgetting how alien it had once felt. He had learned to move among the guards without stumbling, to read the Queen's moods, and even to anticipate small threats before they appeared. But comfort, he realized too late, could be dangerous. It started with whispers in the corridors, quiet conversations that stopped when he entered, glances that lingered a moment too long. One evening, while reviewing the palace security grids, he noticed anomalies. Certain doors had been unlocked without authorization, energy shields temporarily deactivated, and access codes altered. Someone was sabotaging the Queen's safety. Ravi's heart pounded. It wasn't an external attack this time. The danger was inside. The next day, chaos erupted. Senior guards accused Ravi of tampering with the Queen's personal ship, claiming he had endangered her during routine operations. Evidence, carefully planted, pointed directly to him. Shock and confusion hit him like a hammer. He tried to protest, to explain that he was innocent, but the guards' eyes were cold and their voices sharp. They had trained with him, shared victories with him, and yet here they were, turning against him in an instant. The betrayal cut deeper than any weapon could. The Queen, however, did not hesitate. She stepped forward, her glow radiating authority and unwavering trust. "He would not harm me," she declared. The chamber fell silent. Whispers turned into gasps. Some of the senior guards looked down, unsure, caught between loyalty to the court and their Queen's words. Ravi felt a surge of relief, but it was mingled with fear, fear of being judged, of failing in her eyes, and of losing the fragile trust he had built. She approached him, placing a glowing hand gently on his arm. "I know your heart, Ravi," she said softly, her voice carrying warmth and certainty. "You protect not out of duty alone, but because you care. That is why you are here, and that is why I trust you completely." His chest tightened. The fear that had clawed at him for weeks began to fade, replaced by a sense of belonging he had never imagined. He wasn't just a human mechanic anymore. He was someone she believed in, someone who mattered. Despite her defense, the palace was tense. Ravi knew he couldn't rely on words alone. He had to prove his loyalty through action. He began investigating the sabotage quietly, moving through hidden corridors and secret maintenance tunnels he had come to know so well. Every sensor he checked, every door he monitored, every anomaly he traced. He followed the trail until it led him to the real traitor, a senior guard who had felt threatened by the Queen's trust in a human. Ravi confronted the guard in a deserted hallway. His hands shook slightly, but his voice was steady. "You betrayed her," he said, "and I won't let you harm her or this palace." The guard sneered, but Ravi's resolve did not falter. He used every skill he had, every insight from years of fixing machines and reading systems, to outsmart the traitor, isolating him until the Queen's loyal guards arrived to detain him. Later, the Queen summoned him to the gardens. The alien flora glowed softly around them, reflecting her luminescence. "You did what many could not," she said. "You stood firm when everyone doubted you. You protected me when it mattered most. That is why I chose you." Ravi looked at her, the weight of the past days settling in his chest. For the first time, he truly understood why she had picked him: his courage, his careful observation, and above all, his heart. He realized something profound. Loyalty and courage were not born from strength alone. They were born from care, from noticing what others ignored, from stepping forward when the world expected you to stay behind. The Queen had chosen him not because he was perfect, but because he saw her, understood her, and would act when no one else could. As they stood together in the quiet glow of the gardens, Ravi felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he had ever known. He was no longer a mere mechanic in an alien palace. He was her protector, her ally, and the only one who could stand between her and betrayal. And he would not fail. The alarm blared again, louder and more urgent than before. This time, it was not a small raid or an internal betrayal. Entire fleets of enemy ships were descending on the palace. Explosions rocked the outer platforms, throwing debris across the glowing gardens. Guards shouted orders, shields flared, and the hum of energy engines filled every corridor. Ravi's heart pounded. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. The Queen remained calm amid the chaos, her luminescent skin radiating a steady glow even as panic spread around her. Her voice, calm and commanding, guided the guards through the chaos. Ravi's hands gripped the controls of a security panel, monitoring energy shields that flickered and faltered under the sheer force of the attack. Suddenly, a massive blast hit one of the outer corridors, blocking the escape path. The Queen's advisors urged her to retreat immediately, but she refused. Her gaze met Ravi's, calm but resolute. "You will get me out," she said quietly, almost as if she were speaking to herself and him alone. "I will not leave until the path is clear." Ravi's chest tightened. He understood immediately. Someone had to stay behind to override the failing systems manually. Without hesitation, he volunteered. He could not leave her to face this alone. Every step he took toward the maintenance tunnels felt heavy, the heat of explosions brushing against him, sparks flying dangerously close. The enemy had breached even the outer perimeter, and he knew that failure meant the Queen's life, and perhaps the fall of the entire empire. Inside the tunnels, machinery groaned and flickered under the stress of the attack. Energy conduits sparked and panels of the ceiling fell loose. Ravi worked with every ounce of strength, overriding security locks, rerouting power to shields, and recalibrating force fields that were moments from collapse. Pain seared through his arms as metal twisted beneath his hands, but he refused to stop. He thought of the Queen, her trust, her unwavering belief in him. That alone was enough to keep him moving. Minutes stretched into hours. Every second was a test of endurance, courage, and focus. He dodged debris, repaired collapsing panels, and kept the energy shields active long enough for the Queen's escape route to open. Finally, with a last burst of effort, he stabilized the main system. He collapsed to the floor, exhausted, bruised, and battered, feeling as though he had given everything he had. When he opened his eyes, the chamber was quiet. Medical personnel and loyal guards rushed to him, helping him to his feet. And there she was, the Queen, standing before him, her glow brighter than ever, illuminating the shattered tunnel with light and warmth. She reached out, placing her hand on his shoulder. "You risked everything for me," she said softly, "and you survived." Ravi shook his head, disbelief and relief mingling in his chest. "I couldn't leave you," he said simply. "Not after everything." Her eyes softened, and for the first time Ravi saw vulnerability there, gratitude, care, and trust, unmasked by duty or protocol. "You are more than I imagined," she whispered. "You are my protector, my friend, my guardian. Humanity shines in you in ways no technology or training ever could." As they walked together back to the command chamber, Ravi felt a profound sense of purpose. He had always thought of himself as just a mechanic, someone who fixed broken machines. But in this moment he understood something deeper. Courage was not born from skill alone, and heroism did not require extraordinary power. It came from the heart, the willingness to act, to care, and to sacrifice when it mattered most. Ravi had learned that he could rise beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond the limits he had imposed on himself. He had protected the Queen when it seemed impossible. He had proven that even one ordinary human could make a difference in a galaxy filled with stars and danger. And as he glanced at the Queen's glowing form walking beside him, Ravi realized that he was no longer merely a guard. He was a symbol of loyalty, courage, and hope. The human who had once been a simple mechanic had become something far greater. The palace was quiet at last. The enemy ships had retreated, the battle fought and won, but the halls still hummed with tension. Guards moved cautiously, checking corridors and systems, while repairs began on shattered platforms and walls. Ravi walked beside the Queen, still bruised and tired but feeling a strange calm. The chaos had passed, and now the weight of what had happened settled on him. He had faced danger, betrayal, and near death, yet he had survived. More importantly, he had protected the Queen when it mattered most. The realization filled him with pride but also humility. He had been a simple mechanic, a man who thought his life was ordinary and unremarkable. And yet here he stood, chosen by a ruler whose trust few could earn, whose gratitude was rare and profound. The Queen stopped in the central hall, her glow illuminating the room like soft sunlight. Around them, the court of guards and advisors gathered, watching quietly. "Ravi," she said, her voice clear and steady, carrying over the hushed whispers. "You have done what no one else could. You have protected me when others faltered. You acted with courage, with care, and with unwavering loyalty." Ravi felt his chest tighten. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words felt small, inadequate. He had never thought of himself as a hero. He had only done what he felt he must. But the Queen's eyes, so luminous, so full of respect and warmth, told him he was more than he imagined. She turned to the court, her voice rising with authority. "Let it be known," she declared, "that this human, once a mere mechanic, has earned his place among the guardians of this palace. His insight, courage, and heart have proven invaluable. He is not just a protector. He is a symbol of what humanity can achieve when it chooses to rise above fear and doubt." Murmurs filled the hall, guards nodding, some even bowing slightly. Ravi's face burned, but for the first time he felt truly seen. He had never sought recognition or fame. All he had wanted was to help, to keep her safe. And now he understood that true courage often went unnoticed until it was tested and proven. The Queen stepped closer, placing her hand on his arm. "You are more than I could have hoped for," she said softly. "You remind me that strength is not measured by size, skill, or weaponry, but by the willingness to act when it matters most. Humanity shines in moments like this, and you embody it." Ravi looked at her, his eyes reflecting the glow of her luminescence. In that moment he understood something profound. Being chosen was not about being perfect. It was about heart, about the ability to care when others would turn away, to act when others would hesitate. That simple, human quality had earned him a place beside her, not just as a guard, but as someone who mattered. From that day, Ravi's life changed forever. He continued to train, to grow stronger, and to protect the Queen and the palace. But more than that, he carried a quiet confidence that no battle could take away. He had learned that even an ordinary human could rise above limits, face impossible odds, and make a difference. He had become proof that humanity, in its courage and determination, could stand alongside the mightiest rulers of the galaxy. As Ravi and the Queen walked through the palace gardens that evening, the alien lights reflecting on their faces, he realized he had found more than duty or purpose. He had found trust, respect, and a bond that transcended worlds. And for the first time in his life, he knew that being human was not a weakness, it was a strength. Ravi, once just a mechanic, now stood as a guardian, a hero, and a symbol of hope. And the Queen, who had seen that potential when no one else did, walked beside him, grateful for the human who had chosen to rise when it mattered most. Together, they faced the future not as ruler and subject, but as allies bound by courage, trust, and the extraordinary power of a human heart.